Welcome everyone back into In the W presented by Pinnacle. I am so excited to be joined by a current Phoenix Mercury and maybe not maybe one of the best players everywhere. Sophie Cunningham, thank you so much for coming on, Sophie.
I'm so excited. Thank you for thinking of me. I'm happy to have this conversation. I see you on social media. I look up to you. I think you are a badass, and so it's just fun to kind of meet you over Zoom.
So it has been a week in the NBA or the WNBA and the coverage of it and the discourse around mainly the physicality of it. I want to talk just really quickly because as a player who has played in this league since 2019, you played over 150 games. I saw. Congratulations.
Wow, I didn't know that. Thanks.
And play physical in one of the most physical leagues that there is in professional sports. I was curious to know what your feelings were towards just the general discourse of this week.
Yeah. You know what, to be honest, I think it's so fun that people are finally talking about the W. I really don't think that anything has changed. I just think that we have new fans, which means new eyes on the league. There's a lot more eyes on the league. And so, of course, people have their opinions. And there's some things that are just like wild to me. But for me, I just look at it as a positive that, like, hey, people are interested in us. People are wanting to know more about us. And so I just always like to say, the jump from high school to college, it's a totally different game. It's faster, it's more physical. You have to learn and you have to adjust to it. But when I tell you that the difference between college and pro is like 20 times that, it is. And the number one thing about it is physicality. And so honestly, I think it used to be even more physical just like 5 or 10 years ago. And so I think that's why you have a lot of players who are kind of frustrated about people saying people are being targeted or the physicality is crazy, because to us, I'm like, well, this is the softest we've ever seen the league right now. And that's not anyone's fault. I think that there's a huge narrative out that there's a rookies versus the vets, and it's not. It's really not. I think that when there's only 144 of us, we really have to empower each other. We need to have each other's backs. And anytime there's been a lot of talk about Caitlin Clark, and that poor girl, she's had a lot going at her. She has a lot on her plate. Really, all the rookies, you gotta give them you gotta commend them, because they've brought a lot of eyes to it with just the amount of viewership and the amount of fans they had in college. But with that, I don't think that the physicality or people being targeted is a real thing. I think if anything, the league's actually gotten softer and calling a lot more weak fouls.
It's just new eyes who maybe aren't just used to seeing how physical the game is. And it has been. I remember Candace Parker getting into like tough, like tussles with other players, and no one batted an eye, but that's because those people had been watching the WNBA.
Exactly.
From another sense, not that I was ever as good as you, but in college I played a lot like you. Like we had similar.
Yeah.
And I just know when I switched over to the media side, I felt like I had a different perspective on players and on the game. And it's so interesting because you are in an even cooler position, I think, because you're still playing. And last year you were part of covering some of Phoenix Suns games. I think that's really TikTok that you did of getting ready, and you were talking about like the really fun stuff, but also like how you prepare for games and asking questions because you're still a player and you get that and you have a relationship side. I'm curious how that experience kind of helped or changed the way you view the game now, still playing.
Yeah. And I think that's awesome that you played. And I'm sure that like it's probably changed the perspective of how you used to see the game too, because I just feel like, especially the men's game, they're just so athletic and they're so clean with what they do. And once you see things, you can't unsee them. And so now I'm watching games like what the hell's going on out there? Like, this isn't, like, the rotations are off, the defensive schemes are off. It's funny too that now when I watch games, I do watch the game, but I'm more listening to the broadcasters, because that's probably what I want to do when I'm done. And so I do think that still being able to play and getting to see these guys who you can look at them on TV, but when you see them in person, it's just a totally different type of game. And it's fascinating me to just how elite these players are. But it's been really cool to kind of find people who are maybe in my role or the type of player I am, and seeing how they do things, learning from them, seeing how they move. And so it's definitely opened my eyes to seeing the game in a different light. I do still think that like the men and women's game, it is basketball, but it is also like two different sports almost too, just because there's more athleticism. Ours is more fundamental and IQ based. Not saying that they don't have fundamentals or IQ. I know people are going to come at me for that. But I just think that it's been really cool to be able to talk to Book, be able to talk to Bradley Beal and kind of pick their brain on what they see when they're in this situation. And so I'm definitely very blessed with where I'm at, the platform I'm on. The Suns have been taking care of me like no other. And so it's been pretty cool to still get to kind of do both while I'm playing.
I love that you say that you like listen to the broadcast more now, because I even found going through college, we'd be watching whatever basketball game or even
Yeah.
whatever in the sport, and my family would be over, like, let's turn it off, and be like, okay, I want to hear the end.
Yeah.
I need to know.
Well, and another thing that people don't tell you about is like you get interviewed and I can answer any question, right? Like it's all pretty much the same questions. But now when you're on the other side of it, it's like, oh gosh, like what am I gonna ask them? There's so much. And so it's been really fun. So I'm always listening to like the questions or the topics that they bring up. So I'm right there with you.
Okay, a couple more questions. I'm gonna let you go because it is a game day for you.
You're good.
Began week. Mercury is currently 1-1, and I think it's a little bit different than it was at least last year. It's earlier, right? And so for you guys specifically, like you have new teammates, like your starting lineup hasn't played like 10 games together ever, and so you're still building plays and getting to know your teammates. I'm curious, with that change in time and format, and I know you're playing for charities and stuff now.
Mm-hmm.
How do you think it's felt different than years past?
Whew, I'm an open book. So I think everyone knows this, that like the time that I've been here, it's been a roller coaster. It's been so up and down. I've had 4 head coaches, and I've been here for this going on or I guess it is year 6. And so that's wild. We have complete new ownership, new front office, new GM, and it was so much. It was needed. Like it was rough. I was like, what am I doing with my life? The first 4 or 5 years, I'm like, what is going on? But I do think that this year is just like a breath air. They really care. We have a whole new staff, like I just said, just new people and a whole new roster. And so with that, I've been starting the past 3 years, but with that, we have 5 Olympians on our team. And so for me, my role has changed. It is crazy. So like now I'm my goal is, like 6th man of the year. Why not? Right. And so with that, I think when you have new players who are really, really good and you're trying to win championships and you're just trying to win in general, that a lot of people who have egos, it takes a hit. But I'm like, this team, we cannot. We have got to put that on the back burner. We have so many threats. We could have 7 starters really on our roster, which we've never had. And it's like anyone can go off on any given night. And so when I do think you have a whole new team, that you have to build that chemistry, you have to build that rhythm. With BG kind of getting hurt, she hasn't played 1 game. She's back tonight finally after breaking her toe and whatnot. So that's exciting. You have Beck back after her concussion. So to finally see the rhythm and the chemistry that they try to build this team around to finally come tonight, and it's not going to look great tonight, but in the future, it's gonna be really fun. But for me, it really is just a breath of fresh air. Everyone's competitive. Everyone wants to win. We have a lot of winners who've won a lot of big things, and so just to be a part of something like that and knowing where we're going to be, I'm just along for the ride and I'm excited for it.
You're also in a really cool position as, here's the thing. So you can, in the WNBA, there's a few women who play until they're a lot older than NBA players would. And not a lot of people get to play with a GOAT of their sport. There isn't a lot of men in the NBA who are going to play with LeBron James, for example.
Right.
You can play with like a literal GOAT, like someone who could make the argument to be the best, period.
Yeah. It's wild. And I think the first couple of years you come into it, I think our attitudes got compared a lot to each other just because of our feistiness and we just didn't care, but to kind of really see how she is the ultimate pro, I've learned so much. I've just been a sponge. And really this year, but the past couple of years, it's been really cool to get to know her like outside of basketball. And like people can have their opinions, but until you know someone, it's I think that's when you can kind of make the judgment of who they are. And I think Dee is absolutely hilarious. I would hate to play against her or not have her on my team, and she knows that. But to have her on my team and just seriously to see her, she's the first one in the gym shooting. She's like the last one to leave. On off days, she's taking care of her body. And just the way she sees the game and talks about it, it's a lot like Kobe Bryant. And I know a lot of people don't see the similarities there, but when you talk, I've talked to Kobe, when you talk to them, they just think about the game in a whole different light, which is wild to me. And so to really get to play with Dee and know her, I mean, that's all I've known since I've been in the league, but she really is like one of the best humans. She's so funny. She gets a lot of shit, to be honest, and she probably deserves half of it. But just to be along her ride, especially the past couple of years, you know, I don't know when she's going to retire. She's going on 42 next week. And so it could be her last year. I have no idea, but just to kind of be a part of her story in the end is something that I'll never take for granted.
I think that's really cool. One last very lighthearted thing, but it's something that I cannot not bring up as I host a fashion show, like a fashion show, not a fashion.
Oh, do you really?
Yeah, and we have
Oh.
fits on every week. We do this game where we do keep it or kick it. And so if you have been on every week, have the fits been always this hard in the league, or are we just seeing them more? Because these women look like superstars.
Okay, to be honest, there's not a lot that's changed in our league. Like it's just more eyes, and then we have the platform that people want to know about us. People want to, we're personable on our side, and I feel like we've always had the little fashionistas. We've always had the poppies of our league. We've always had the girly girls of our league. We've always had phenomenal players. And so for us, nothing has really changed. It's just the amount of fans and the amount of people who want to be a part of it. And so for me, I think this is such an exciting time to be a part of the W. I don't think a lot has changed, but I think that when you have this, everyone's got to step it up. Why would you not want to be a part of something great? And again, you got to thank this rookie class with bringing their fans. And so that's why I hate the narrative. I want to squash the narrative of everyone going against each other. I think that we've always kind of had badasses in our league, to be honest. So no, nothing new.
Good. Well, get your fits off because they've been going. But
I need to figure out who does your style, because I'm like, I saw your page. I was like, I need to get on like that.
actually, one of my players' sisters helps me, so maybe I'll send her your way because she's phenomenal too. And keep it all in the women's space, and
I love it. I love it. I love it.
I appreciate you more than you know. Good luck tonight.
Thank you. Love it. Awesome. See ya.